This is why pancreatic cancer has one of the lowest survival rates. It's often a silent time bomb.
Hello, I'm Dr. Davidson. Today we're going to talk about something that's happening inside your refrigerator. We're not just talking about leftovers. We're talking about what's really going on with that food and how it could be impacting your health in ways you've probably never even considered.
Just imagine this for a second. What if something you do every single week, something you do to be smart, to save a little money and not waste food, is actually quietly planting the seeds for some of the deadliest diseases out there?
Look, I've been a heart surgeon for 30 years. I've spent my career on the operating table, and I've seen the kind of damage that takes decades to build up. And let me tell you, time and time again, the root cause isn't just bad genes. It's so often found in a pattern of simple, everyday habits that start right there, in your kitchen.
Here's the scary truth of it. When you reheat certain foods, they go through a chemical transformation. They're not just harder to digest. No. They can create compounds that silently overload your pancreas, that inflame your arteries, and can even damage your very DNA. We're going to talk about 5 very common foods today, and I would bet you that at least 3 of them are sitting in your fridge right now. And listen, this is really important. If you're over 60, your margin for error gets a lot smaller. Your body's repair systems, they just aren't as zippy as they were when you were 30. And those compounds we talked about, the ones from reheated leftovers, they can stick around longer and do a lot more damage than you could ever imagine. So to really get why this is so risky, especially as we get older, we need to peek inside our bodies and see what's happening at the cellular level. We're not talking about one bad meal here. That's not the issue. We're talking about cumulative exposure. It's the buildup over time that feeds something called chronic inflammation, and I call it the silent fire. It's what burns at the very root of cardiovascular disease and cancer. Every single food on today's list, it adds a little more fuel to that fire.
And what's so critical to understand is how some of our organs react. Your pancreas, for instance, is a tireless, silent worker. It just does its job. It doesn't complain, it doesn't send up warning flares, not until the damage is already really advanced. And you know what? Same goes for your heart. This is exactly why habits that seem totally harmless at 40 can become genuinely dangerous at 65.
All right, let's get specific. Our first 2 offenders are actually often found together, and we're going to start with the very medium we cook them in.
So culprit number 1 isn't actually a single food, but the oil it's cooked in. Think about leftover French fries or fried chicken. So many of us, we just toss them in a pan with a little more oil to get that crunch back, right? Well, let me tell you, that is a critical mistake for your arteries.
You see, when you reheat vegetable oils, you unleash this toxic cascade that creates these really dangerous compounds called aldehydes. I want you to picture aldehydes as arterial sandpaper. They literally scrape and damage the delicate lining of your blood vessels. Over time, that makes your arteries thick, stiff, and just primed for plaque buildup. So the takeaway here is actually pretty simple. Just stop reusing frying oil. I know, it can feel wasteful, but believe me, your long-term health is the priority here. When you're reheating those fried foods, grab the air fryer or use an oven. These methods use dry heat, and that brings back the crispiness without creating that poisonous soup of new toxins. Okay, the second food on this list, this one is probably going to shock you, because it's pretty much the definition of healthy eating. I'm talking about spinach, kale, and Swiss chard. So here's what happens. These greens are packed with nitrates, which are totally harmless. But when you cook them, cool them, and then, this is the key, reheat them, those nitrates can turn into nitrites, and those can then form something called nitrosamines. Now, why does that matter? Because nitrosamines are classified as probable human carcinogens. They're genotoxic, which is a fancy way of saying they can directly damage your DNA. The solution is simple. You just have to respect the chemistry. Cook only what you think you're going to eat, and if you do end up with leftovers, eat them cold. Seriously, cold-cooked spinach is fantastic in a salad or whizzed into a smoothie. It's that second blast of heat that triggers the dangerous reaction. All right, next up, let's tackle 2 of the most common leftovers you'll find in pretty much any refrigerator anywhere: rice and chicken. Rice, right? It seems like the most harmless, safest food on the planet, but you'd be surprised how much foodborne illness comes from reheated rice.
The problem is a little bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Its spores are tough. They can actually survive the cooking process. Now, if that cooked rice is left out at room temperature, those spores can wake up and start producing toxins. And here's the really critical part. One of those toxins is heat stable. That means you can reheat the rice until it's steaming hot, but that toxin is still there. And it can trigger inflammation that puts a whole lot of stress on your pancreas.
So the rules for handling rice are strict for a very good reason. You've got to cool it down fast, spread it out on a shallow tray, get it in the fridge within 1 hour, and don't store it for more than 24 hours. And only reheat it once.
Now let's talk about chicken. It's a fantastic source of lean protein, but it becomes a really dangerous partner with, you guessed it, the microwave.
Microwaves, well, they just don't heat food evenly. They create cold spots. So the outside of that chicken breast might be scorching hot, but the center could be at the perfect lukewarm temperature for bacteria like Salmonella, Campylobacter, or Listeria to just thrive. And for my older patients, a Listeria infection isn't just a bad stomachache. It can be life-threatening.
So the most important thing to take away here is this. The microwave is just not reliable for reheating big pieces of chicken. A food thermometer is your best friend. All reheated chicken, no exceptions, has to reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 75 Celsius all the way through. Honestly, the safest bet, just enjoy that leftover chicken cold. Shred it up in a salad or something. And finally, let's look at the humble potato. Reheating it is kind of unique because it can launch 2 separate attacks on your body.
So, attack number 1 is on your blood sugar. When you cook and then cool potatoes, they form this really beneficial stuff called resistant starch. But when you reheat them, that good stuff converts right back into regular starch, and that causes a sharp blood sugar spike that just exhausts your pancreas. Attack number 2 is the formation of acrylamide, which is another probable carcinogen, and the levels of it increase when you reheat potatoes at a high heat.
But this leads to a pretty simple and, frankly, delicious solution. Just embrace the cold. A cold potato salad with a little olive oil and herbs is one of the smartest ways you can eat leftovers. It preserves all that good-for-you resistant starch. But if you absolutely must have them warm, gentle steaming is a much, much better choice than high-heat recrisping.
I've stood over that operating table, and I've seen the end results of these patterns. I've seen arteries that are rigid and inflamed. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to arm you with some simple, life-saving rules.
So here are my 6 practical rules. Number 1, cool your leftovers fast. Get them in the fridge within an hour. 2, store them in sealed, shallow containers. 3, only reheat a portion once, never, ever twice. 4, heat chicken evenly, and please use a thermometer. 5, for potatoes, you're aiming for warm, not rebrowned and crispy. And number 6, frying oil is for single use only, period.
You know, longevity isn't about some miracle supplement. It really isn't. It's about the accumulation of small, smart, daily habits. So my question to you is, which of these 5 foods surprised you the most? And if you know someone who reheats their food every single day without even thinking about it, please share this with them. You could literally be saving them from a diagnosis that doesn't give you a second chance. Protect your health and take care of yourselves.